I am a stray cat, raised among low wooden houses where sunlight arrives in thin strips, and the ground holds the smell of warm dust, spilled rice, and dried fish. My territory was a labyrinth of eaves, fences, and small yards. I knew every escape route the way I know my own whiskers. The gap behind the coal shed, the warm roof of the grocer's shop, the hollow beneath the floorboards that breathed heat when I curled into it. In the morning, the air came damp from the river and left a taste of metal and still water on my tongue. In the afternoon, the city rose in kitchen smoke, in heated wood, in thin soup, in used oil. I had no name, but I had habits. I knew where trash was thrown first, where rats passed with more confidence, where scraps came with less risk. There were humans I tolerated nearby. A woman with gentle hands left leftovers beside the sliding door. I did not cross the line into the house, but I came close enough to smell soap, chopped greens, and the warmth escaping from inside. A boy sometimes came too quickly, with damp, impatient fingers. I stepped back, not out of hatred, but instinct. Touch is risk, and risk has a scent. Even so, I understood their rhythm. When the sound of pots filled the street, when voices were round and low, when footsteps did not strike hard against the ground, I moved more freely. Nights were my time. I walked along the edge of the human world, where trash gathers and rats forget to look up. The sky was a dark ceiling with faint stars, and the wind carried sweetness from trees and sourness from latrines. I hunted out of need, not play. The rat's body snapped beneath my teeth. Living warmth faded quickly, and silence returned, heavy as still water. Sometimes I crossed paths with another cat. We exchanged scents in the air, growled low, measured distance. There was no friendship, only territory and hunger. Then each followed his invisible line through the street. During the day, I watched from the top of a step, tail wrapped around my paws, listening to the city repeat its sounds. Wheels, hammers, voices, the call of vendors. But I also heard absences. Some streets that once smelled of soup now smelled of dry wood and nothing else. Some humans passed with hollow eyes, harder faces, sharper sweat. Their urgency had a different sound, as if it no longer fit inside their bodies. I did not understand why. I only felt the change on my skin, the same way I feel rain before it falls. The air grows restless, thin, and my fur tries to rise on its own. Even so, my routine persisted. I returned to the same alley to drink droplets dripping from a pipe. I curled beneath the same floorboards to sleep, where the world became wood, trapped warmth, and human breathing above me. A steady rise and fall that made my eyes close. There, for a few moments, I could pretend the city was always the same. The walls kept old marks of rain. The smell was familiar, repeated. And I, small and whole, believed in the shape of my path, as if it could never break.
Move it quickly! We haven't got all
The
day.
air began to change before the ground did. It came drier, thinner, as if it had been scraped by something I could not see. Humans started walking with less smell of food and more smell of fear, a sharp, acidic sweat that dries quickly and returns stronger. At night, the sky was no longer just a dark ceiling. It vibrated in the distance, like a rumble that did not come from the earth. I felt it in the pads of my paws, a tremor that had no shape of thunder. The wind carried a strange taste, light as dust, yet persistent on my tongue. The sounds changed too. Sirens cut through the air and made birds rise in flocks. I hated that sound. It entered through my ears and stayed trapped behind my eyes. When it came, doors slammed, footsteps ran, and voices grew thin and hurried. I ran beneath the floorboards or into the gap of the shed. A curled body is safer. I learned that again and again. Sometimes after the long, sharp noise, there were other sounds high above. a heavy breath in the distance crossing the city. Not always did something happen. Sometimes only a thick silence remained, and humans emerged slowly, the smell still clinging to their skin. There were fewer scraps in the streets. Trash bins emptied faster. I had to walk farther to find a distracted rat. Other cats invaded my path more often, and the fights were quicker and uglier. Fur flew, blood tasted hot, and pain lingered like a taut wire in my leg. I limped at times, but hunger pushes even a complaining body. Nights seemed longer even when they were not. The wind carried less conversation and more absence. I began to notice houses that smelled of departure. The scent of old tatami lingered alone, without human warmth over it. Doors that once breathed now stood mute. A yard where I used to drink water was dry, the pipe no longer wept. The boy with impatient fingers did not appear for many days. The woman with gentle hands continued for a while, but her scent changed. She moved faster, breath short, and sometimes left nothing outside. I waited anyway, sitting at a distance, because waiting is also a habit. The sky, one morning, dawned too clear. No clouds, no birds. The air lacked the river's humidity. It was a pale emptiness, almost bright, that forced my eyes to narrow. I moved along rooftops searching for shade because the light already felt harsh before midday. There was no siren at that moment. There was a silence that did not feel like rest. I felt my fur rise, not from cold, but from something that had no name inside my body. I did not understand what humans said when they gathered. Their voices were fast, broken, but I understood when one body decided to run before another. I understood when a scent warned that something was not ordinary. The world I knew was becoming thin, as if the edges of my territory were being slowly sanded down. I kept walking the same routes, yet corners felt narrower, shadows less reliable. Still, that morning, I left my shelter. Hunger is simple and direct. The sun climbed quickly, and I followed the street where the ground kept more crumbs. I was near a low wall when the air became too still. No wind, no birds, only light. And then the sky turned white. The white was not like sunlight. It had no warmth at first. It was a blade that cut through my eyes. I could see nothing. No wall, no ground. My body reacted before thought. My paws folded beneath me, my claws scraped against the wood of the nearby gate. And then the heat came. It arrived as if the air itself had been set on fire. The fur along my back crackled. My skin burned before I understood that I was burning. I ran, but the world ran with me. The ground shook with a sound that was not thunder, not a common explosion. It was a strike that came from every direction at once. The air became a wall. I was thrown against something hard, tasted blood in my mouth, felt dust forcing its way into my nostrils. After the strike came the wind, a wind that was not river wind, not storm wind. It was a hot shove that dragged wood, tiles, the smell of iron, the smell of something burned that I had never known before. The world had broken into light and heavy pieces. I heard screams, but they seemed distant, as if underwater. The sound was muffled, and my ears rang like trapped insects. I lay still for a time, not by choice, but because my body would not obey. The heat still bit at my skin. One of my whiskers was singed, curled like burned thread. When I tried to stand, pain shot through my front paw. I limped. The air tasted of ash. Every breath scraped inside me. Where there had been houses, there was scattered wood. Where there had been roofs, there was sky. But the sky was no longer blue. It was covered by a thick cloud rising slowly, like smoke that did not know how to stop. Particles fell softly, touching my back like warm dust. I shook myself, but the powder returned. I searched for the floorboards where I used to sleep. They no longer existed. The street had vanished beneath debris. I recognized the place only by the smell of the river beyond, but everything else was new, sharp, open. A sweet, heavy scent filled everything. It was not food. It was something that made my stomach tighten and my tongue want to retreat. Humans moved without direction. Some lay on the ground, unmoving. Others walked slowly, as if each step were too difficult. Their smell was strong, mixed with burn, blood, thick fear. I avoided getting close. A human body that once meant scraps now meant pure risk. I tried to find water. My tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. Where the pipe once wept droplets, there was only twisted metal. I walked toward the river, avoiding small fires still chewing on wood. The bank was crowded with people. Some entered the water with clothes still smoking. The smell there was mud, diluted blood, and something acidic that made my eyes sting. I drank anyway. The water tasted strange, heavy. My reflection was distorted by ash floating on the surface. For a moment, I did not recognize myself. My fur was uneven, with burned patches. My paw throbbed. When night fell, it brought no coolness. Heat remained trapped among the wreckage. Silence was not silence. It was the continuous groan of a wounded city. I hid beneath a fallen sign in a space too small, but it was the only roof left. There, I licked my injured paw until the taste of blood faded. My territory had vanished in a single flash, and I was still alive. The next morning brought no birds. The air was still heavy, as if the previous day had not ended. Light came weakly from behind the thick cloud hanging over the open city. I stepped out from beneath the fallen sign carefully, placing less weight on my injured paw. Every movement was measured. The ground was covered with splinters, glass, charcoal. My pads burned. I walked toward what had once been my old path, not because I expected to find anything, but because the body searches for what it knows, even when it no longer exists. Where there had been the alley of rats, there was only crushed wood and the smell of death. The smell was constant now. It did not come from one place. It lived in the wind, in the dust, in the clothes of the humans who still moved. There was less movement than I expected. The city that once murmured was nearly mute, only groans, dragging steps, the distant crackle of something still burning. I saw bodies that did not move. I passed them cautiously, keeping distance. Instinct told me not to touch, not to linger too long. Hunger returned before the pain faded. It always returns. I searched beneath fallen boards, inside torn sacks, near the riverbank. There were no organized scraps, no waiting bins. Everything was scattered, unpredictable. I caught a rat running blindly through debris. It too seemed lost. The meat tasted of ash, but it fed me. Days passed. I know because the light shifted and dimmed, even beneath the persistent cloud. My paw began to close, though I still limped. I licked it until the skin sealed. Burned fur grew back uneven, coarse. My body became thinner. I had to walk farther to find less. Some humans began to disappear from the riverbank. Others appeared, carrying a different scent. Not residents, but strangers. They carried things, spoke low, touched those who still breathed. I watched from a distance. I learned new paths through the ruins, new shadows where walls once stood. The territory redrew itself, not by choice, but by necessity. There was no more woman with gentle hands, no more boy with hurried steps. Their house was an emptiness. I passed the place many times, not from conscious hope, but because my body remembered the old scent. Now there was only dust and silence. Rain fell one afternoon. thin and persistent. It washed away some of the ash but brought a different cold. The water running through the open streets tasted metallic. I drank little. I began to seek puddles that formed in less exposed places, where the earth seemed less bitter. Over time, some sounds returned. Distant hammering, firmer footsteps. But the city was not the same. The air remained charged with something that never fully disappeared. I did not understand what had happened high in the sky that white day. I only knew that the world can change in a single instant of light. I keep walking. My territory now is made of ruins and empty spaces. I have learned to sleep in crooked structures, to avoid certain corners where the smell remains too strong. My paw healed, but it is not the same. Sometimes it aches when the night grows cold. The sky regained its color, but I never fully trusted clear light again. When it grows too bright and the air becomes still, my body curls on its own. I do not know why the sky turned white. I only know that before there were rooftops, voices, scraps of fish beside a door, and after there was heat, wind, and silence. Still, I breathe, I hunt, I hide, I survive. The human world shattered and began to rebuild, but for me it is only a landscape of scent, sound, and temperature. What changes for them reaches me as smoke, as hunger, as absence. I keep walking over what remains, because as long as there is shadow and something to hunt, I continue.